It is Penn State week. Normally, this would be one that you circle the calendars and say, good grief. These are some of the greatest games that I can recall covering. They're some of my favorite games to watch. It's a rivalry that, I don't know, sometimes I think I care about it more than certainly people at Penn State do, certainly people in administration at Penn State do, and certainly more than James Franklin did, although he is now certainly gone. But it has always been, next to the Michigan game, the 1A game that I want to see. And this one has provided so many classics through the years. I loved it at night. I thought that was such a cool tradition, whether it was over there or over here at night. We've done Scarlet Outs with them. We wore the Wolf Gray uniforms over here for that game. And obviously a whiteout in Happy Valley against Ohio State is an all-time atmosphere. But this year it's a little bit different because Franklin has been relieved of duties, and Penn State, a monstrous team on paper when this season started, has fallen flat on its face. Drew Aller's not coming in here. James Franklin's not coming in here. They'll still have the basic whites and the black sneakers and all of that stuff. But other than that, they do not resemble what we thought Penn State would be. Now, one of the boys on the way to school this morning asked this to me, Dad, they still have all their talent, don't they? And I said, well, they don't have Aller, but yeah, they still have Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, and they still have all the defensive talent. And yeah, they still do have all of that. And so when you see a line that's approaching 3 scores or over 3 scores, you say, gosh, that's a lot. But the reality is that this Penn State isn't that one. Now, do they have a great performance in them? Yeah, I'm sure that they have a great performance in them, and I'm guessing that this will be their Super Bowl. For Ohio State, though, you're coming off a bye. And Ryan Day has been excellent coming off of buys in his tenure. He's excited to get back at it. Let's start from this sound from Roundtable last night. Coach Day on being at home and being in front of the home crowd again.
Yeah, we miss being at home. 3 of our last 4 on the road, so can't wait to get back to the Horseshoe. And yeah, last time Penn State was in the Horseshoe, it was rocking, and it's got to be the same way. We got to force them into a silent cadence, and off the clap, and got to be the most hostile environment. So yeah, we're going to need everybody. We've had great crowds this year. The environment, the atmosphere has been as good as I've seen it in Ohio Stadium so far this year. So we got to keep that going. We got to be at our best, and that's everybody involved.
So in terms of the second bye week, remember they had one earlier back in September as well. So this was the second bye week of the season. The fellas asked Coach how he attacked the bye week. Here was Ryan's answer to that.
That's exactly what it was, yes. Yep, a little bit of both. So we're out there practicing. Guys need to keep their edge, and that's really important. But we also need some guys to come on, and we're able to get some good depth. We had some really good physical practices Wednesday, Thursday, and really worked on our fundamentals. Got a little head start on Penn State, so now it's back to work.
And this Penn State team, despite no Drew Aller, which is a big despite, they still have a ton of talent, still have a bunch of NFL players on their roster. Ryan Day, well aware of that.
First off, very talented, extremely talented. Just from the top to bottom, one of the more talented teams in the country. And I think we all knew that going into the season. It hasn't gone that way, or exactly gone the way that they wanted to, but doesn't mean that the talent's not there. And so, they've had a bye week, and I thought they played really, really hard at Iowa. Tough start for a young quarterback, but we know we're going to get their best swing here, and we've got to have a great week of practice.
True or false, next to Texas, this is the most talented team they've played so far?
False. I think it's Washington.
I think Washington's the most dangerous.
Well, the quarterback's definitely more talented wearing purple.
Yes.
No offense to Ethan Grunkmeyer, Columbus's own.
I think we need to separate here with what we've seen on the field because not always is the most talented team the best team. This was a team, like we talked about, was in the college football playoffs last year, was ranked number 2 to start the season. I think this probably is the most talented team. Now, is it the best or dangerous team with what's happened on the field? Maybe not, but talent-wise, yeah, I would think it is.
They lost Tyler Warren and they lost Abdul Carter from that team, and they didn't replace either with talent.
That's it. I think you're both right. I think it's nuanced. Washington's is much scarier. You could maybe argue that Illinois was more scary than Penn State because of the way they're going about their business. But I do think you could say that Penn State, and it's interesting because I'm comparing them to Texas, who is a mess right now. But if you could just go look at top 100 NFL prospects, my hunch is you could combine, and I don't know this, I haven't done it, but my guess is if we had the MIT kids do it, if you found a list of top NFL prospects, that Penn State might have more top 100 NFL players than Illinois and Washington combined. That might be the case. They might have the same similar talent as Texas and not too much less talent than what we have here. Now, you're right. The big part of it is they don't have Aller, who was pretty clunky to start this season, to say the least. The thing that's most shocking to me about Penn State is all we heard, what I assumed Penn State would be, is like 90% of what Ohio State was last year offensively. I thought that they would lean on those two backs, and I thought they would bludgeon you with Allen and Singleton and run it to pass it and be a physical punch-you-in-the-mouth team. They have not gotten anything out of Singleton. He's a local kid. He was a 5-star tailback, and they haven't gotten anything. They have not gotten it going. It seems like with the injury to Aller, they committed to get Katron Allen going a little bit, and they did in last time out against Iowa. I think he had 145 yards, something like that. So they finally got him going a little bit. But in terms of their identity and what they are, I have no idea. I have no idea what we're going to see here on Saturday. No idea. I don't know what their plan's going to be. I don't know how they're going to go about their business. I don't know what they're going to rely upon. The part that I do know, though, is there is a lot of residual talent there. They weren't number 2 in the country in the AP at the start of the year for no reason. They were there because they had a bunch of talent. Now, they haven't played to the talent. Neither's Texas, neither's Clemson. All of those teams are in the top 5 in the country. You can have talent, but in this day and age, you also have to build a team, which is something Ohio State's expert at. But I think it probably is. I think just from sheer talent, they probably are. But not sure what you're going to get here on Saturday. But this has always been one of my favorites. I love the Penn State game. I think it's a shame that it's going away, that it's not something that you see every year going forward. And that's Penn State's choice, not Ohio State's. But that part of it disappoints me a great deal, because I think this is one of the great matchups in college football that should be played every year.
Doing a quick look at the ESPN Top 100, they've got Denzel Boston as the 15th overall prospect, and then there are 3 Penn Staters on that list. So 3-1 in terms of Penn State's got 3 of them. A.J. Harris, their cornerback, and then 2 guys on their offensive front. Denzel Boston, obviously the highest of the 4, but that's the top 75, and just doing that quick look. So, yes, Penn State's got more NFL talent, but just the manifestation of it hasn't been much. No. And losing Drew Aller, obviously you don't have the confidence that a quarterback making his 3rd start, going to Ohio Stadium, playing the nation's best defense, is going to be able to do anything other than please don't turn the ball over. So it screams they're going to sit on the football, try to dominate time of possession, and hope something can happen defensively, that they can make this a 1-score game going into the 4th quarter.
Scotty and I were talking on Sunday, and we were talking about the spread and it being 20.5. And you're like, man, that seems so big for a Penn State game, especially when the beginning of the season, this was a 3.5-point game. Mm-hmm. But when you sit back and you look at it, do you think Penn State can hold Ohio State to less than 4 touchdowns? And then the other, do you think Penn State can score double digits on this Ohio State defense? And when you sit back and look at it and think of it from that way, you're like, well, yeah, 20.5 seems right. But it just, from what we know and this team and what it was supposed to be, it doesn't compute in our heads for some reason.
What you just did is what I end up doing with Ohio State every week when we make our picks. That's how I approach it, is what you just did. I approach it, okay, can they get to 14? No. Can they get to 7? Maybe. Can they hold Ohio State to 28? No, I don't think so. And so that's how you end up at 20.5. They know what they're doing. That game you just did is what I do with Ohio State every week when we make the picks, is how many points can they score on that defense? And you think about Grunkenmeyer coming in here, local kid coming in here, making this start. They don't really have anything scary on the outside. I mentioned Singleton. This is the most stupefying. This is as stupefying as any stat in college football this year. Nick Singleton, 76 carries, 274 yards, 3.6 yards a carry. He was always a breakaway. His long carry on the year is 16 yards. He's only got 95 yards receiving. He's got less than 400 yards of total offense.
It seemed like every game when he was a freshman, he had a 50-yard run.
Yeah. Yeah. And he came back, and he's, in his fourth year. I mean, this is his freshman year, 1,061 yards, 6.8 yards a carry, 12 touchdowns. Sophomore year, 752 yards, 4.5 yards, 8 touchdowns. Last year as a junior, 1,099, 6.4 yards a carry, 12 touchdowns. He's averaging 3.6 yards a carry. It's just a strange approach. But we'll dig into it more as the game goes along. And the other layer in this is defensive coordinator Jim Knowles, who returns on Saturday. What motivation is there, if any, to take on your former defensive coordinator, who did a pretty damn good job here, but it feels like you've almost unintentionally upgraded. We'll get to all of that coming up next. Bishop and Friends right here on The Fan.
The sound of Paul